agentic series. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And now I have a challenge tonight, and that is keeping track of the attendees coming in. So apologies if you know somebody who's waiting in the waiting room, then we'll see. Okay, so see some familiar faces, and like Cecilia, Daniel, LT, Sarah. Hey, welcome, and some new faces. And I don't read Cyrillic very well, so I think that's Athena. So welcome. All right, so let's get started and get Arthur, because I have a new local leader. His name's Arthur, and he's going to be helping with the events. Usually Arthur is attending, so if he shows up, then I will ask him. And yeah, so anyway, welcome. And I will also give you opportunity to sign up to our future announcement list and basically stay connected, because I'm one of the local leaders here in Hong Kong, and I'm getting new students for what we call them new cohort founders for this summer course. And we're coming down to the point where we are going to do this a lot more often. And I shouldn't say this. This is the final session in the first 12. Starting, in 2 weeks, we have an event coincide with the big crypto event here in Hong Kong. And then a week after that, or 2 weeks after that, we have the next session, which is going to be leadership. Okay. And hi, Daniel. So the next session will be a leadership. It's about AI, and I'm just planting a seed here. You don't have to, don't worry about it. But it's about AI and leadership, and it's going to be more on the human side. Yes, we'll show you automations. Yes, we'll look at how to automate the back end of your business. But in the end, that series is about taking all of the areas in which you need to look at and work with on the human side to get a proper AI automation implementation. Now, I find it interesting that, if you are a startup in the startup world nowadays, you need to have AI in part of your tech stack. But of all of these new startup companies that I know of, none are usually automating everything on the back end. So that's what we're going to be talking about in the next series. But that starts on the 24th, so it's almost a month away. But, mark your calendars. We're going to be doing that. And then we will have a session pretty much every 10 days after that. Ooh, right? And so that's just so we can make sure we fill the cohort. And like usual, all the recordings will be saved and shared for you guys. And so with having said that, I'm going to share. It's going to let me share the whole screen. Well, good. Screen one. Yay. Okay. So this is, that's Telegram, and that's going to be part of my demonstration later on. And because when we look at quality of life, what is it that's making a good quality of life? It's being able to focus on what you want to, when you want to, and most important is having those good relationships. Not a good relationship with success and money. Those are important, and we don't want to discount those. But how many times you hear about that struggling couple that's just making it by, and they're so in love, everything's happy, and then that really successful couple that is got all the money they want, but yet the relationships are not there. So we want to make sure that we have that quality of life, and I'm taking a lot of what we're going to talk about tonight, later on, from Franklin Covey, okay, and Stephen Covey and his work with people and doing their best. Okay, so we have everybody in the workshop. So let me take a minute and thank you for indulging me. And so let me tell you about it. Now, we have three market forces in the world today, and there's massive startups worldwide. And these market forces are really what controls us as a world. And if you are a startup founder and you walk into a pitch and you say, this is the one market force that we have focused on to start this company, you'll have a little bit of credibility. But if you say three market forces, you will have power. Okay, because that sets a tone and it gives it a setting of your story. And then like this, startups worldwide, but funding is tighter than ever on average. I mean, like all this money, investment money is going into the AI in Silicon Valley. And where's that coming from? It's coming from investors around the world. And that means there's less investment for you and I. You as a startup founder, you have great ideas, innovation, but that back end to help you build for strong business growth. And like you can take the digital marketing courses, they'll tell you how to do digital marketing. But not that many tell you how to do the IP, how to do the growth planning, how to do the staff planning, how to learn to use mentors and their advice. And that's what we do at Founders Institute. So the solution is 66,000 alumni. Actually, it's 86 or 66. Yeah, 6,600. Actually, it's more than that now. And 30,000 mentors from around the world, 100 different countries, 200 different cities. But what we have is a system. And our solution is we find great people. That would be you. And we give you a devoted global network. Okay. And just to let you know, I'm a serial entrepreneur. Okay. I have been around the block for, and I always paid the bills, but, never really successful. I'm wondering, how do others do it? Well, it's through mentors. It's through getting it. So we have, our big strategic advantage, our mentor network. Like I said, Evernote, Yammer, SlideShare, Mint, and these, 200 chapters around the world, weekly feedback, evaluation, and training. And yes, you are going to be trained on how to pitch, right? Why is that? Well, we focus on pitching so much because that's the number one thing you can do. You can pitch success into existence, or you can pitch failure into existence, depending on what you say to yourself. And the most successful startups have a CEO or a COO, CMO who can tell stories and pitch, because that's going to be your make or break. You're going to pitch to your investors. You're going to pitch to your team. You're going to pitch to your clients or customers. You're going to pitch to yourself, right? So you need to be able to pitch to all of these. And we teach that in the core program. Okay. And if any of you have ever seen me or had office hours with me, you don't have a pitch, you and I will make one in a few seconds. No, a few minutes. All right. Anyway, so our core program is 4 months long, and we start this year in June. We start every year in June, sometimes last week in May, but we'll start in June. We have launch, validation, and funding. So 3 different tracks in order of development of your company. So if you've got, an idea, we'll help you launch it. If you've got an MVP, you need validation, we help you prove the idea. And then we got the traction. Okay, so we've got all of those. And then once you finish, you're part of the funding lab, okay, and then product market fit lab, and the FI venture network. You learn how to use Zoom really well. Okay, why do I say that? Because when you have a webinar in Zoom, you've got different controls than if you have a regular Zoom meeting. And that's why we have Zoom webinar. And this is my company. And this, I just wanted you guys to see this. And hopefully you can hear it.
Noah, what do you want to be?
A successful entrepreneur. Like Daddy.
Is your dad a successful entrepreneur?
No. He also wants to be a successful entrepreneur.
Noah, what?
Okay, no. If you want the link to that one, let me know and put it in the chat. Okay. He also wants to be a successful entrepreneur. Okay. So, and I'll put it in the chat just for fun there. Okay. Okay. So now, next we are going to hop into your personal chief of staff. Okay. I don't get credit for the fun, cool name for this. Basically, I just get credit for coming up with the idea. All right. So a tip nowadays, and I don't know if any of you've seen, there's been a flood of these articles about how these large SaaS business, software as a service, are running into their stock is leveled off or it's falling. And that's because with all this vibe coding and automation, you can create your own SaaS product and run your own SaaS product for very little, right? So back in the day, an entrepreneur, okay, or a startup would just want a solution, right? So they'll pay someone to build a solution. But I see that model dying because now when an entrepreneur or a small startup wants a solution, they can build it in a couple hours or a day, and they know how to maintain it. They know how to run it. Because back in the day, once I build a website as an entrepreneur, I have somebody build it for me. I still need to pay someone to maintain that. And that model, I pay someone to build it, then I pay them a retainer to maintain and keep my website moving, is quickly becoming, I won't say obsolete, it's becoming less and less popular. And so that means as a small business owner or as a startup, you need to be thinking about your automation. Okay, you don't need to, actually, I take that word back. You want to, because as AI goes forward, today is the worst it's ever going to be, right? It's always going to get better. And so as we go forward, it's not going to be too long before I can type in something into my vibe coding, Lovable, and it will create the tool, the website, the automation, the landing page, the dashboard, or anything that I want in no time. In fact, that's already happening. You go to AI Studio, and with your regular Google account, like I have a Google business account, with that regular Google account, you can get and have it set up to where it will do the things that you're not doing. Having said that, and so that's why I've here at Founders Institute, we've set up our AI system, and I have been focusing on using AI tools in the last year and a half because I see this as a major trend. Small business doesn't need to pay someone to do their marketing, doesn't need to pay someone to do their finance, it doesn't need to pay someone to do the operations. You can do them all, but you need to know how to run the automation. And that's really what we've been talking about with automation for the last 12 sessions or 11 sessions. This is the 12th. And excuse me there, I need to wet my whistle. And so that's the encouraging part, is once you learn how to use some of these automations and you learn how to build them, you learn how to maintain them, now you are free to continue to run. Now, and the automations that we are looking at here in this session, these are small, right? You can set these up and use for medium-sized business. You don't need the Fortune 500 McKinsey consulting, right? And it's usually for small businesses, say up to 50 million. Then the medium-sized businesses, if you have a question about that, DM me, and because that's going to take. It's the Goldilocks thing. For small businesses up to 50 million, this is what you need, right? This is what you want to do. But after 50 million, up to 500 million, that Goldilocks, that's just right. Not too small, not too big, just right. That is a different story. You definitely need some professional help, but you don't need a McKinsey that's going to cost you several $1,000,000 for a contract. And that's really what we do here in Founders Institute is we help the smaller businesses get up and running. Because once you get up and running, you now have the ability to run. And how long is it going to be before there's the one person $1 million revenue business? The 4-hour work week. There's a book about doing just that. But in the 4-hour work week, Tim Ferriss paid people to do his call center. He paid people for fulfillment. He paid people for all these other things. And now, as an entrepreneur, we can set up automations to do most of that, not all of it. Okay, and be sure to say, so if you have 10 people on your payroll and you automate 80% of what you're doing, you still need 30% of your staff in case that automation goes wrong. Because when automation goes wrong, it goes very wrong, right? And so that's what we're talking about. So here in N8N, okay, so N8N, I have a cloud account, costs about $20 a month, and that $20 a month gives me like 2,500 executions. And so these executions, every time it runs, and so I have used a total of 200 executions maximum so far. So it doesn't need a lot for me as a small business and a solopreneur. But as we go forward and start growing, we start getting partners and partnerships, then we can start, I'm going to start, needing more. Okay. But the main thing is I know how to run it. I know how to keep track of it. So I can do everything on my own. And that's what I pray for you, is to be able to do the same thing. So you can take care of your business. And even as you grow, you will be able to grow in a way that doesn't add extra tools and processes that you don't need. Most of the time, a small business grows, they just add this person and then they're doing this process. They don't need it. Okay. It's not vital to the processing and running of the company. And that's what we want to get rid of, is get rid of those extra processes that aren't needed. They're just legacy from past times. So what I do for medium-sized businesses, we will go to a retreat, or, in the past I've done courses online, and I have them build their own workflows like this. They say, well, this isn't exactly how we do it at first. Then after a while, once we build it, and then I start asking them questions. Well, what else do you need? Because this is the bare minimum, but it also turns out to be the maximum. Meaning they have other processes that they say, oh, we've been doing it this way. And I dig into, why are you doing it that way? And after peeling the onion, turns out that, well, that's the way we've always done it, right? The last 10 words of a dying business, that is the way we have always done it, right? That is the killer. And so when I teach and consult, when we're doing automations in small businesses, this is what we look at. It's just do the minimum, not what you've always been doing. And now, if you continue, you still want to do some of those extra things, fine. If that's part of your business DNA or your brand personality, great, do it. But what we're doing is automating the back end so you can be free to spend time with customers or free to lie on the beach, whatever. But we are helping you to help that lifestyle. And that's what tonight is all about, lifestyle. What are we doing in business? Well, do we need more? Do we need more and more and more and more? We have those achiever types that want the $50 million company. They want to work 50 hours a week. They want to be the top 50 of every top 50 list on the planet. Great. Go for it. Okay. This will help you do that. This will help you get there and be that kind of entrepreneur. But remember, when you have a company like that, you also want other people who are quite driven and want to be the top 50 of every 50 list. No problem. But is that everyone? No, that's not everyone. And in fact, doing research, that's about 20 to 22% of the population. Then there's the kind of company that's just in it for the inspiration. They're in it, and like we see lots of these inspirational speakers and the public speakers, the YouTubers that are in it for the audience, and that's not a problem either. That's fine. They like the attention. They like that audience. Great, but that's going to be a different company and have a different kind of DNA for employees and for this brand personality. And so that's fine. You can still automate your company to do that, but keep in mind that it's more of a lifestyle and a fun, where there's the achievers, there's the lifestyle and the fun. Okay. Then there's also another type of business that's more in it for the family. It's for the connection. It's for the support. Often these are NGOs, things like that. You can automate an NGO too. And then the final category of all these four is the precision category. People are in it to be the most precise. They're very data-driven people, and they love those statistics and analytics. That's fine. And with those, that if that's the kind of company that you want and have, just make sure you find team or people who also want that. Now, as I say this, I say there's four different types. If you notice, if you've ever seen the DISC or Myers-Briggs, that's what I'm talking about. But it's important to also keep track and make sure that you're not getting too driven, too connected, too inspirational, or too data-driven. You need that balance, because if you don't, you're going to go a little bit nuts. Okay. So now, when we talk about your personal chief of staff, this is about and I derived some of this content from Franklin. Remember those Franklin planners? I don't know if you've ever seen them. They used to be this big, binder ring, and they had a middle-sized binder ring, and they had a little binder, right? And basically, you page, you can notes on or meetings on a page, and then you have a big calendar, and then have all of these different things that you can buy for your Franklin planner. Now all of that's been replaced by this little guy. Okay. But back in the day, Franklin Covey, and then it turned into Franklin Covey, but Franklin planners, when their trainings, they would say, when you're going on holiday, should you bring your Franklin planner? And the answer is yes. Why? Why do you do that? And that's the key to this workflows that you're going to be learning about here in a minute. What is it about that Franklin planner that was so important? Well, the key for that Franklin planner was that if you're on holiday and you have a good idea or you remember something, okay, then you want to write it down. You want to get a record of that. But if you don't have your planner there, you write it down on a piece of paper, again, before we had the phone, or, and then, or you just tell yourself, I need to remember, I need to remember, I need to remember. And if you're thinking, I need to remember during your whole holiday, you're not focused on your holiday. You're not focused on the people that you're with. You're not focused on the activity that you're doing. And the whole idea of going on a holiday is to get a different view of life. But now you're busy trying to remember that thing that you thought was a good idea. And you notice that when you are on holiday, that's when those great ideas come. So what we've created here is just that. It's a chief of staff, and I've kept it simple on purpose. Okay, first of all, just to make sure it worked and for me, all right? And second of all, when I get really fancy and add more nodes and more nodes to these kind of workflows, then it gets to a point where for you as learners, it's more difficult to remember. It's more difficult to get it. Okay. And so that's a key. So you keep that in mind. Okay. So, excuse me there. All right. So what is this? Well, when I have my personal chief of staff, okay, and my personal chief of staff is somebody at AWS wants me to do. And I've set this up in a specific way. When I was first playing with it, and I'm noticed that often there's a way that I can talk directly into Telegram, and it will shoot into, and so I've got a voice message that works. But my suggestion, especially at first, is don't use that voice message. And this is just straight voice, because you can't read it, right? So what I do is I will talk into voice to text, and you train your AI on your phone, because this is AI. You train your AI on your phone, so it will actually remember, or it will, I shouldn't say remember, it will interpret your voice, and because when it types something wrong, instantly, while you still have your microphone on, go retype the thing that you meant. What do I mean by this? So if I'm talking and I say, what is it? Oh, yesterday I was making a note to myself about, ask for Janet, Janet. Well, my AI wrote Jeanette. So right then I backspaced and fixed it. And then by today, it had learned. So when I say Janet, that means Janet, not Jeanette. Okay. So that's how you can do it. But you want to do that at the beginning. Okay. You want to do that soon when you're going. But you can see it when you do that. And then I push send, and then it will send that same message. I'll show you here in a minute, because I have a whole bunch of demonstrations. But first, I wanted to show you how we built this. Okay, now, I said I want a personal chief of staff. Well, actually, I said I want a way to reduce stress and help me with my quality of life. I wrote that into Google Gemini. And I said, basically, I want to be able to focus on what I'm doing, because that's fulfilling, helps the quality of life. It helped. And I said, I want to have fewer distractions when I need information. Again, so I can get the stuff I need without being distracted. Because if you notice, every time you go into Facebook or LinkedIn, there's all this different information to distract you. And most of the time we go through and say, oh, that's a good idea. Oh, that's a good idea. And then next thing you know, I found all of these different ideas. And what did I go in there for in the first place? Because of those distractions, it is making us as human beings uncomfortable. And that FOMO, and they're playing on it. Fair enough, the social media channels have made it their goal to keep you on as long as possible by giving you more and more and more distractions. What does that do? Well, it keeps you distracted, and it doesn't keep you to doing the things that are fulfilling. Yes, we need some downtime. Okay, fair enough. Every now and then you need a few minutes to downtime. But the research shows that if you are on, say, social media for 3 hours, you are going to report massive loneliness, massive unhappiness, because you're looking at all these other people and you're not getting any of that connection, right? And this is after a few hours. Same thing with television, okay? Not movies, but television, whether you're showing commercials or even television series, because it's a short series and now we're going to do another one and another one. But the main thing is the research shows that if you're interrupted or you're distracted, and sometimes we need that, don't get me wrong, that first half hour of distraction is fine. But after that, your happiness starts going down, your loneliness starts going down, okay? Of being, and that does not help your effectiveness, especially if you're a startup founder. You're lonely, right? If you're a leader, you're lonely, because startup founders and leaders are two very independent jobs, and you don't have a lot of people around you. So even if you work in a shared workspace, that you still don't have those people around you as much. Okay, so that's why when we have an idea, okay, I have an idea, I just shoot it right into Telegram, and and this is my Telegram trigger. All right, and this is a bot that I made as DRW bot, and that's 6. I've got 7. All right, I've got them for different reasons, and I'll show you more here in a minute. All right, now, and then what it does is it sends it to this. Now, this is code, all right? And if you notice, if you look on YouTube and they say N8N, no code required, that's not true. You still need to have an engineering mind with N8N. Apologies. I know, and you guys are trying to think, oh, I'm not an engineer, I'm going to watch this. And you can still do it, because I don't have an engineering mind either, but it's still, it can get frustrating at times. But what I did was, like I said, I went into Gemini and I described what I was looking for. And it gave me all these criteria, and then it gave me a prompt. And I put that into Claude 4.0, and I just have Claude on Poe. You need a professional account on that one. So that one's going to cost you too. So the N8N will cost you, and then the Poe will cost you. But if you just pay those two, that's $40 US a month, and that's pretty good. Okay, so then we come in, is this approval, and basically, do I want to keep it? So if there's a message that has a thumbs up, then it will keep it and send it to a spreadsheet, or if not, it will send me to the agent. And here is the agent. And if you guys want, I can put this on I can save this. Can I do a whole file? No, I'm gonna have to do it in my Google Drive. So I think I can drag and drop it. Anyway, so we have this agent. Okay, I have an agent that will, it's a system message. You're a chief of staff. You're efficient, and you'll do what I need when I need it. And right now, like I said, I'm keeping it simple. I haven't added any drawing, or I haven't added any video creation, simply because I want to keep it simple at this point. And that's a tip. I mean, if that's one thing you get from this whole series, that is, keep it simple at first and then add on. Okay. Because I used to try to, I would go into Gemini and say, give me this prompt for this big, long workflow. And then I would put it into Claude, and we would be going, problem solving, or error correcting node 1, error correcting node 2, error correcting node 3, error correcting node 4, right? 5, 6. And then, your chat bot, okay, then your tools and memory. Every one of these, we do this error correcting, but start from the beginning and just add on, then it makes it easier. Okay. So then we were here in the chief of staff. Here's why, if it says search for a web search, then go find the news facts. Okay. If you're looking for an article, go find the URL. Okay. And I'll show you what I'm using. And I'm just using Gemini Flash 2.5. Okay. Not a big deal. All right. But then here are my tools. So the first one I have is Tavily, TAVLY.com. Okay. And that's Tavily. And so what this does is it gives me current web information, news, and facts. I love it. I have a free account, and it says it will, for every, I get 1,000 queries a month. Okay. Will I need that much? No way. For free on a free account. Okay. And so I chose it, and I'm using it because it is free, and it's actually fairly free. Now, if I'm using it for a team, I want a paid account. Right? If you're using your whole team, they all have access to this, then you want a paid account. I'll get to that a little bit later. But then, so that's Tavily. Love it. And it will just, it uses my API key. Okay, I don't think I'm supposed to show you guys, but yeah. And then I go back up, and we have the same thing with, Gina. Okay, so Gina also has, basically it will look for the URL. You input a URL, and I'll demonstrate these in a little bit, then it will go get me the information instantly. Now, you're saying, well, I can just search on Google. Yes, you can. And Google will have a ton of stuff. And it's not very specific. It's not exactly what you want. And so then I can save it to a pending. Okay. Then it will send a response to my Telegram. And I'll show you this in a minute. Then I can go in, then boom. Then what it will do though is it'll be waiting there. And if I send the thumbs up icon, it will now put it here and it save it to what we call corporate memory. Ooh, ah, ooh, ah. And then we can confirm the save, and we're done. All right. So again, that's what we're doing. So why is this so important? Well, when you have an idea, because all the best ideas come from when you're not behind the desk, when you're not at the computer. Good ideas don't happen behind a desk. All right. Tom Peters talked about this 20 years ago, and it still has not changed. It's when you're out, when you're moving around, that's when you get the good ideas, because you're seeing things and you're getting, those ideas are being triggered in your mind. And now they're becoming the solutions to problems. When they say, you're trying to figure out a problem, go take a walk. Why? Does it suddenly moving your legs let new ideas come into your mind? Yes. Okay. And so, what you can do with that. Where this came to me is about 10 years ago, WhatsApp and WhatsApp groups just started getting really popular because the smartphone was making it, getting advanced enough. And so we started I was teaching in university, and I was being massively overworked. I was clicking over 70, 80-hour weeks every week during the semester. And so I was looking for any way I could to be faster, better, and automate. And so what happened was I found that I had my students in my business communication course, I said, go in there, and when you're there, you guys need to, as a group, you need to be in different rooms, and you're going to do a brainstorming chat, right? So you're in different rooms. You can't be together. I can tell. It's like Johnny just said this and Julie said that, and I don't agree. Well, how do you know they said that? Because it's not written in the chat, right? But you guys can do that. But I had my Slacker group in that class, and I saw that they had done their brainstorming over a period of about 3 days. And they were just out and about. And I thought, oh, this is not the assignment. The assignment was to be in different rooms and do this brainstorming chat, because that's what you're going to be doing in the future. And I'm coaching clients who do that now. And so what happened was they were doing that. They were actually doing that chat but they did it over a space of 3 days. And at first, like I said, I was not happy. But then I looked at their responses. And because they were out and about, they were in the real world, in the real environment, they were getting cues from the real environment. And everyone else, all the other groups, even my overachiever group in the class, they were done. But this out and about in the environment was just so much better, because they were out of their office, they're out of their home, or they're away from their desk. And so at that point, I said, this is true. To get away from that desk. And so when you're out, you have ideas, and those ideas you want to send into the trigger, lifestyle. So I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to think about it. Just send it, and I can either confirm to save it or not. And so next, I'm going to demonstrate a few of these. Okay. So if I execute a workflow, all right, it's going to ask me to put something into N8N or into Telegram. And so let me put this down here, put this. With you, and read that, and Sarah. Okay. So now, all right, so I was playing with it a little bit earlier. And so there are several things, main points that we had in the flyer, okay, where you guys signed up. And the first is, architecture, delegating. Okay, so how can I delegate? So here's one. Okay, tell me, what's the latest news about OpenAI? You get this idea, and then boom, you just send it in. It's going to take a minute for the system to run, and then it gives me 3 different latest news. Okay, when I send at least a new MML tool, and if I want to know more, then I can. Okay, but if I want to keep this information, don't know why I would want to do that, then I just love those guys. So now I've clicked it, and now it's going to save it, and then it's going to send me a confirmation that it's saved. Okay, so it saved it in this knowledge base, but it took it out of this pending file, right? So then, so that was one of the things. The main thing is, you now have a delegation. So I just delegated that, and so what if I want to build a skill? Okay. So what are some best practices for AI orchestration? So we have a sample. And yes, I asked Gemini for these. Okay. So say, hey, I already did that one. Yeah, and even updated the LLM. So here's the best practices for AI agent orchestration. So, boom, clear descriptions, avoid instruction-based variable manipulation, governance and human oversight. Right. So these are structured handoffs. Okay. So there's this thing when you're implementing an automation system, the work isn't the problem. The handoffs are the problem. Okay. So that's one thing that what I've known. So, wow, I want to keep this. Do I want to keep that? Nah. So, yeah. Well, those little guys are really getting funny. Okay. So that's a modular skill building. I just want to know a skill. But what about, what we call closed loop feedback system, meaning I don't want any disruptions or distractions. And so here is, I want to know just 3. And why is this make you so powerful? Is because I just put these in there. Okay. And I meant to do this. And so Cursor, 3 competitors in the AI space: Cursor, Lovable, and Salon. Okay. And now I'm going to do one voice to text. I can't do voice to text on the computer right now because Zoom has my microphone locked. So it just won't let me do that. Okay. And research the top summarize the top 3 articles about AI regulation. Okay, so I just said that into my phone and it submitted, like I said, as a voice, as a text file. Okay. Brookings Institution highlights 3 major challenges. Science Digest provides a comprehensive review, and Harvard Law Review proposes that due to AI's diffuse nature, future regulation should adopt a decentralized co-governance framework rather than a traditional top-down approaches. That sounds like Harvard. So, boom, there we go. And I just said that into my phone. Okay. And that's why I suggest saying, saying it into your voice to text so you can read it before you submit. Because if you just do have and it takes 4 extra nodes to translate a voice file, which it's not bad, but it's also more chance for things to go wrong and a higher lift. All right. Another skill. Okay. Specialized resources. I could ask it, what's the weather? But you seriously don't want me to do that. Yeah. So again, another skill is specialized resource. Hey, right? Explain quantum computing. And so you can see, you see there on my phone, it's saying explain quantum computing. Okay. Yeah, quantum computing. Boom. Now you're looking like you really know what you do. I do this in my men's fellowship class. I mean, like, okay, we're talking about this verse in this chapter. Boom. And now I've got an overall view. Love it. Okay. Any kind of fellowship. Okay. So now, automated knowledge compounding. So that's the 3rd skill. Okay. So again, first skill was asynchronous project management. You can talk about things that you're doing. Second is specialized resources like this. And then 3rd is, so a 3-day or a 3-step structure is first, research top AI agent frameworks. Okay. So basically I'm compounding knowledge. And so Lang chain, Llama index, and Streams vision agent. And these are definitely not easy to use. Okay. So I want to keep that one. Then the next. And so you go the next day. Okay. So now I'm saying, well, what are pricing models for SAS or SAS? And okay, well, didn't work before. So now I'm going to keep that user-based, tiered, usage-based. Then on the third day, okay, I want to know, copy, something about research competitor positioning. So this is the first day, the second day, and the third day. And okay, competitor positioning marketing strategy focuses on differentiating the company's product and services, highlighting unique value. Okay. So yes, I want to keep that. Ooh, ah, ooh, ah. Okay. And now, and now when I go into my Google Sheet, where it's around here somewhere, and I closed it. Okay. Um, okay. So here is my Google Sheet with the pending and the log. Just scroll all the way down here to look at the bottom ones. So here's the competitor positioning, and here's these three. So now I have 1, 2, 3 about my research for today. And why this is so important, because I just did 3 things and I've got the research. I didn't have to go and say, well, where is that? I did this research the other day, and I'm famous for this. Trust me. I will do this all the time. I'll say, oh, I want to go check this out, or I want to go check that out. And then I'm looking through Gemini or Claude or GPT. Where was that? Where was it? And now, I can still do the research. It's all here in my thing, right? But it's still there. All of it's there. But I can go into that spreadsheet and say, well, where is it? I can search and find it much more quickly. Now, this is just for me. If you're doing a lot of this, you want to use a database like Airtable, or even in N8N, you can create data tables. You can actually create your own table. And so then it will save it there. But that means you also need to go back into N8N to get that. Okay. And so that is where it's a problem. Okay. So now, do you guys have any questions? We've got, we're supposed to end at 8:00. So if you have any questions, let me know. What we'll be doing in the next series is we will be introducing your leadership. Okay? What do we mean by that? Well, if I'm going to automate, it's easy for me to automate if it's just me. But if I have a team, there are 6 different ways that I need to, 6 different areas. I need to think about data. I need culture, leadership, okay, and other functions to automate. And you need to get all those ready before you automate, right? Then we are looking at we're going to take the science of scaling, and we're going to add, bots or agents into that process so we can focus on one area, make one really time critical goal. And so we get rid of all the other distractions. And then we'll look at the combination of the oversubscribed, because Daniel Priestley in his book Oversubscribed teaches about doing a campaign type business. And so instead of just running and going and going and going, we break it up into a campaign. And so every week is a campaign, or every month there's a campaign, but it's got these measurable start and stop. And when we set up automations to support that, now we can know by the moment, or as soon as that campaign is over, whether or not we're on track, we're off track. As we're in the campaign, by week 3, we needed to have at least 30 cold calls, and we only have 20. We need to go get some more cold calls, because we know by 20 cold calls, we're going to have 2 people sign up. And, and with those 2 people who sign up, that's going to give us, at our price point, it's going to give me, $50,000 a year. So if we need more than that, or less than that, and figuring all that out. So that's what we're going to look at. But putting that into the automation framework of using N8N on the back end. Okay. And again, even if you're like a medium-sized or a mature small business, my suggestion is you learn, if you work with me, or join the Founders Institute, we're going to focus on just a small bare minimum. And then if you need to add more, we'll help you do that. But you need to justify it, because often, many of my clients say, I want to add more because that's the way we've always done it. And my question is, why? What is it that's helped? What is the reason that we've always done it? And often we can streamline your automation. Was it back in the day? It was Bill Gates who said, automating an efficient system makes, magnifies the efficient system. Automating an inefficient system magnifies the inefficiency. So when you're automating, you want to think about ways to get rid of as much as possible that's not efficient. That helps with the science of scaling, and that helps you to focus on being oversubscribed. But most important is the people on your team are what we call the human layer. And we're going to be using that term, the human layer, with my guest speaker, Indran. And he wrote the book, The Human Layer, and he will be my guest speaker. Do I have that up on another? Yes, I do. So Indran, he will be our guest next week, and in the next leadership workshop, which will be on the 24th of February. Look out for it, sign up for it. But that will be helping us, missing the manual for AI adoption. Basically 5% of AI winners build what everyone else skips. So we'll be looking at using this as a basis. And Indran is based here in Southeast Asia, or Asia Pacific area. So he knows, and we've both been working with the dynamics of Southeast Asian companies. That family company or family-owned company that is, a multi-million-dollar company, but it's still family-owned, right? And we've done things. This is the way we've always done it. Is very prevalent. And so this is the manual to help get through that. We'll also be looking at Daniel Priestley. Let's see. So that's my company. Quick thing. Oversubscribed. This is the book. Yeah, right here, oversubscribed. And so we're talking about, how to get people lining up. And then the other book that we're looking at, SCI. And then this is the Science of Scaling. I didn't want the online assessment tool. Books. Okay, there we go. This is the Science of Scaling. Now, I'm not just pointing out books for you guys, but what I'm talking about here is taking the latest and most effective tools that I've been using, working with my clients to make them the best they can be. Okay, and that's where at Founders Institute, that's what we're doing. We want you to be the best you can be, and that's why I'm going to be talking about these four different things. And we're talking about the human layer, the science of scaling, oversubscribed, all automated with N8N, so that you can be the best that you can be. And my next startup, is using all of these to where we're working on a way to package them all as a global entity. And so look out for that later on this year, or probably early 2027. So about a year from now, that should be an up and running, and should be a multi-million-dollar company run by 3 people. So that's it for me. And so now, those of you who have questions, you know how to get a hold of me. Right? Here's our contact. Right. Okay, here we go. I will send this info out to you. So, and this is the WhatsApp group. Don't worry, I don't spam you too much. And anybody who does spam, you're out. Okay. And then to get all the notes from today, then you guys can get those by just clicking on that link and basically filling out the information, and it'll ask you, is it okay if I contact you? I rarely do, only for, special partnerships or, guest speakers actually on the show. And next time, starting on the 24th, we will start doing guest speakers in every session. That's just to help you get to know, and you don't have to listen to me the whole time. But anyway, so that will be next week. And here's my LinkedIn, FI mail, my phone number, and that's WhatsApp. Just definitely send me a WhatsApp, because if you call me, I will not answer if I don't know you. And then joining our session, or joining. Why do I have 2 of these? Don't know. Okay, so anyway, that's it for tonight. Thank you all. You've been a great audience. Thank you for your support, and thank you for staying. So I look forward to seeing you. I would invite you to our session. We have an in-person session on the 10th, but it's sold out. So, Cecilia, you and I still need to get together and work. So you're welcome, but let's plan on getting together in the next week or 2, so I can, we can finish up your project. Okay. So, anyway, take care. It's been great fun, and we will see you guys on the 24th of February. Take care. Bye now.